you are live.
Good morning, and welcome to the hyena den here on the northeast corner of South Africa and the western fringes of the Kruger National Park. Huge amounts of activity going on here. Lots of little cubs, lots of sort of sub-adults, and one or two adults to keep an eye on things here. You are most welcome to this live safari. My name is James Hendry. On camera today is all 6'4" of Brian Joubert. Hello, Brian.
Hello, James.
And in the final control, we are being controlled by Geraldine Kent on the vocals, and I think it is Kirsten. No, Kirsten's having a day off. Rebecca is helping Jerry today. On the other vehicle, Brent Leo Smith is out. That's Brian's thumb. And he's being filmed by Jean-Dre the Foot Gerding. We're just going to spend a bit more time with these hyenas. The dawn has just broken, as you can see. The sun has yet to peep up over the horizon at this stage. And what a joyful beginning to our morning to have all the hyenas here at home at their den. If you are a new viewer, or if you've perhaps just got slight amnesia, this is a live safari, which means we'd love to talk to you. Hashtag Safari Live if you'd like to tweet to us. Questions at Wild Earth if you'd like to use the email. We don't use fax machines anymore, and you can also talk to us on the YouTube chat stream. That's a pretty good way of getting hold of us. So that's what's going on here. You're looking there at Pretty. Her name is Pretty, and she has got two babies. Sorry, one baby. Not sure where she is at the moment. Then that rather severe-looking female who has just definitely had a giant meal is the matriarch, Madam. And she's definitely got two babies here. The two smallest babies are her, born in January of this year. That little one you're looking at there is one of Corky's babies, D1 or D2, born in... Why everyone's moving around. Might just be going to the other side of the den. But we're not going to move just yet, of course, because, well, there's a hyena under the car. Isn't that wonderful? That's one of the January youngsters. Valeria, I agree with you completely. You're on Twitter, you say this was a great way to start. I agree, it's a wonderful way to start, and it's a kind of snap into the morning. Whereas opposed to sometimes we have a very kind of slow ease into the day. Being here with the hyenas is a real kind of quick, fun, sharp start to our morning safari. So you can see how completely confiding they are, fascinated by the vehicle. They're so used to it because they've seen it since they were, well, just a few weeks old. And it's interesting how as adults, they become less and less confiding around the vehicle. They become less and less interested in it. And even though we're able to sit at this kind of distance from them, you know, as soon as they become adults, it's almost impossible to follow them through the bush. Unlike with a leopard or a lion, you can follow them off-road, you can make quite a lot of noise behind them, and they just kind of carry on. A hyena will move away from you if you try and follow it through the bush, which I think is quite interesting. And this is just a whole lot of greeting going on there. Reaffirming social bonds. And that youngster, who I think is probably... I'm not sure who that is. It could be May from last year, almost a year old. At least, sorry, June from last year, almost a year old. Going on here, you see how as soon as there's any kind of disturbance, the cubs run for cover. But we've got the two youngest cubs, the two January cubs, did not run for cover there. They, of course, are going to be more confident than the others because they were born to the matriarch. And they will inherit that in sort of confidence that she's got. They will inherit the arrogance, if you like, of royalty. They're both males. Perhaps we should call them William and Harry. What do you think? I can't believe I've only just thought of that. Or perhaps if one's a male and one's a female, we'll call them George and Charlotte. matriarch's little hole in the ground. I don't know why she's kind of dug that, excavated it slowly over the last few weeks. And that beautiful grass, which will shortly be shining gold as the sun comes up. I'm just going to reposition slightly. They haven't gone anywhere. They're just kind of milling about where we can't see them. So let me just reposition slightly. You'll see my incredible media device here. Much better than Brent Leo Smith's giant lens. Don't you think, Brian? All right, we're going to just try and find out where all the hyenas are. Let's head across to Brent and find out what he's going to do.
Good morning and welcome on this very chilly sunrise safari. This is the first day I've been out that we've dropped below 20 degrees Celsius, 17. And I am now regretting not collecting my winter kit from home. Although Jean-Andre thinks I'm being soft because I want gloves. It's about 62 Fahrenheit, which I'm sure is a nice balmy day for a lot of you. But for me, it is violently uncomfortable. And I'm wearing about 8 layers. But the good thing is the predators are going to be mobile more and for longer in the mornings. So that is exciting, and I'm willing to weather the weather, so to speak, to find the lions and the leopards. And speaking of leopards, here we go. Madame Karula is back on Djuma. That is exactly what we came here to look for. It's going to be a bit difficult in this light. There's Madame Karula's track coming back into Djuma. I'm just checking carefully if there are any little pitter-patter of paw prints around. I can't see any, so it's likely she's still holding her den to the south of us. But and now able to walk on their own 2 feet, or 4 feet, sorry. But it's very exciting, so we're going to go follow up on these tracks, and while we do that, let's go back to James and those very, very adorable hyenas.
Right, Tax. Can you ask Brent for an update? Hello, everybody. Sorry, I was just on the Game Drive radio there as we came live. Brent will update Tax on. There are 2 little cubs there. And something has sort of caused the adults to disperse. Now, quite interestingly, what happens here is that... Sorry, I'm just listening to some noise behind us. That probably one of the adults. Is one of the adults back? One of the adults coming back. Interestingly, at sundown, the adults kind of come in and they do their feeding, and then they disappear off on their forage. And then sometimes sort of at sunrise, they'll come in early morning like this, feed their cubs, and then they go off. But I don't think they go off to forage. Listen to the noise here. Now they've naturally stopped calling, of course. Just a very sort of low, grumbling growl, which is a greeting. So as I was saying, if you come here in the middle of the day, you will very seldom find any adults here. Now, they don't forage normally during the day. And so what they obviously do is head off into the bush somewhere and go to sleep. Presumably so that they don't attract any attention to the den. So the cubs will go down into their hole. The adults will kind of disperse away, probably sort of to within, I don't know, about 100 meters, 300 feet of the edge of the den. Oh, this is just too wonderful for words. Hello. Hello, Donna. You want to know what these grasses are, the plants that are hanging around the den here? Donna, they are something called feathered chloris, which is a grass species, or Chloris roxburghiana is the other, or is the botanical name for them. And I think that they are one of the most beautiful grasses we get here, and they really like to grow on termite mounds. So that's what those are, Donna. What are you doing, Mr. Hyena? Hello, Pinchy Whiner's Hat. That is a wonderful name. You want to know when the last time somebody stole, or one of the hyenas stole, a wheel cap was? Well, Pinchy Whiner's Hat, I haven't had it happen here, but certainly when I used to work at Londolozi, it used to regularly occur. They are too funny, these hyenas. And like I say, they lose this inquisitiveness when they become adults, which I always find quite amusing. That they, once they sort of hit a year old, they've decided they're bored of us. I guess it's exactly like with, young children. They have their interests when they're little, and when they're adults, those interests change. So just if anyone's wondering, Pinchy Whiner, of course, has become something of a joke around the place. It was a crab, hopefully is, but most likely was, a long-lived freshwater crab named by Scott after Mark Whiner, who found it. And since the exposition of the name, there has been great enthusiasm and use of it, and it has now become a Twitter handle as well. And I think Pinchy Whiner is the greatest crab name ever devised. Look at the beautiful grass. So Donna, you will see there how that lovely grass is starting to shine a little bit. Oh, listen. It's a clan member calling off. It's one of this clan calling way to the south. So you might not be able to hear it. The microphone is not facing anywhere near where the hyena is calling from, but I suspect one of the males, perhaps from this clan, just calling, making a final contact call as the dawn breaks before sort of going to ground, finding a sheltered piece of drainage line or perhaps a thick bush to lie under. And there, now we're calling from this side too. Isn't that lovely? Very special. Hello. That's pretty, everyone, is it? I think it's pretty. Let's see. It's a bit young. Hyena experts, please can you tell us who this is? I think it's a bit young to be pretty. I don't want to move the car. I know your picture's actually perfect, but that's the vehicle in the bottom right-hand side of your picture there is this sort of filming seat. And she's lying now 2 feet from us, maybe, maximum. And what happens is, of course, if they're this close to us, as soon as there's any movement, they get a bit of a fright. Too sweet. So that's one of the January babies. No, I'm pretty sure that isn't pretty. I think it's too young to be pretty. So I'm not sure who that is. But it's most likely subordinate female. Oh, Douglas. Hello, Douglas in Arkansas. I'm just going to stick my head over the top here. Hello. What are you doing? Douglas? You have asked a very good question about the hierarchies, and I said to you that this female here is sort of probably a low-ranking one, and I said that because the little ones were taking it upon themselves to sort of bite around her neck, and that would only happen if they were high-ranking, which they are high-ranking. We know the very little ones are the youngsters of the matriarch, so they are high-ranking. They'll have that confidence where they're prepared to approach a much bigger hyena and sort of play with her and bite her. You also want to know, is there hierarchy amongst the males? And there is a hierarchy amongst the males, Douglas, but it's probably far less defined than with the females, but it definitely exists. Just keeping an eye on what's going on here. And it is very much in the same way as the matrilineal line is inherited, so the females' hierarchy is inherited from the status of their mothers, so it is with the males. So if the matriarch gives birth to a male, he will be high-ranking in the male hierarchy. But the interesting thing, as I've said before, is that high-ranking males within a clan seldom mate, seldom bear offspring, and so a hyena male who wants to leave a genetic legacy must move out of the clan and go and join another clan and be a very low-ranking male. All immigrants are very low-ranking, but they have a greater chance of mating. It's the only mammal species I know of where that actually happens. Ah, okay. So thank you, Chris Rogue. This is wonderful. Two hyena geniuses, Chris Rogue and Shell in Detroit. You said that that was a young male called Ribbon, and he often comes and visits the den. So that's great stuff. Thank you very much for that. So we'll recognize him. I mean, I know that Shell and Chris are identifying him from the spots on his back. I'm unable to, I just see spots when I see them. But he did have a little bit of scarring on the top of his head, and perhaps that's a good way of identifying Ribbon as a sort of fast identifier. So it's not impossible for the males to visit the kind of den, but it's not that common. Now so far behind the vehicle that we can't even see them. Here's another vehicle coming in though. Grant, you've noticed how these hyenas are so completely sort of comfortable around us, and they're prepared to come right up to the vehicle, under it in some cases. And Grant, you want to know how long it takes them to get like this? A few weeks. They come out of the den sort of at 2 weeks, and they'll pop their little heads out and they'll have a look. And you know, as long as we don't create too much disturbance and the adults don't react to us, within a week or two, they are completely comfortable with us, and they will come right up to the vehicle. They'll bite off the wheel caps, as you've seen. They'll go under the vehicle. And then as they become slightly older, by the time they're about 8 months old, they've had enough, and they're just not that inquisitive about us anymore. So I know you've got bits of the car in the picture. I just don't want to start because they're so close, and I think that'll give them a fright. Impossible to film a hyena this close to us. Oh, there's some others calling through there. Just sounded maybe like they'd found something to eat. chatting, some squealing. Just listening, everybody. I'm not sure what's going on there. We might go and have a look just now. Let's just wait and see. Ribbon has not reacted at all. He's still behind the car. So while we listen, Bethany, active hyenas obviously all over the place. You want to know if they sleep as much as lions and leopards. I'd say pretty close, Bethany, but not quite as much. Remember, and I'm guessing here, but they eat a lot more in the way of bone marrow. So they will crush bones and suck out the marrow, and that's an important part of what they eat. And because of that, you probably find that they have more energy to burn. They've got more fat to burn. I'm guessing there, but I think it's possible that that's why they sleep less, or why they don't have to sleep quite as much, but they will sleep for a substantial period of the day. Perhaps Shell and Chris can tell us in a very simply how it is that ribbon is identified so easily by them. I don't know how they managed to do it. So perhaps Chris and Shell, if you can tell us ribbon's distinguishing marks, I would be fascinated to know. The noise seems to have stopped. Lovely, lovely inquiry. Well, things settled down here. As I said, we had a kind of snappy start to the morning. Hyenas running around the place, playing, enjoying the new day. Chris in Arizona, as they settle down here, you want to know about their problem-solving abilities. How does it compare with the problem-solving abilities of a badger, for example? Now, I'm assuming that you've seen that video of the badger at Moholoholo, which is a rehabilitation center / tourism venture up in the mountains of just close to Hoedspruit, which is not too far from here. And there's a wonderful video, for those who don't know, of this badger climbing out of his enclosure using rakes and spades and building towers of wood and stone to get out of his enclosure. And it just demonstrates an incredible amount of problem-solving ability. And while, I'm sure some of it was slightly set up, I've definitely seen purely unset up video of badgers bringing logs to climb up onto banks and get into birds' nests, and doing it a few times so that they can build the tower of the right size. So they have an incredible ability to solve problems, do badgers. Now, Chris, I don't think that hyenas have quite the same abilities. I've certainly never seen them doing the same thing. I've never seen records of them doing the same thing. But I do know that in terms of intelligence, general intelligence, they are renowned for having an intelligence that is right up there with the cercopithine primates. That means the monkeys and the baboons. And it's indicated by their complex social structure. So just over the top there, you can see Ribbon going to greet Madam, the matriarch. I think that's Madam. And the youngster doesn't want to be left out. And it's interesting, just like young children, they've become bored with the vehicle. They're not interested in the vehicle anymore. So they're going to say hi to the adults. Excuse me, everybody.
Bless you.
Thank you, Brian. Oh, that must have been very loud in my lapel mic. comes Madam again. Or was that Corky? So bad with this stuff. That's Corky. No, is it? It is. She's only got one gash out of her ear. No, but no scars on the top of her head. No, that's Madam. Sorry. Never mind. Something's going on here. There's some scent in the air that they don't like. So it's very interesting to see the male here, and I don't know whether he has rank or not. But the way that he's interacting with the matriarch there tells me that he could possibly be fairly well. He's probably quite high ranking. Now, there is, I don't know where he sits in the hierarchy. I'm guessing he's quite high ranking. He may even be related to the matriarch, and I think that's why he spends time around the den here, unless he's just enjoys the company of the youngsters, and why wouldn't he? They're enormous fun. And Aqua, you want to know why don't low-ranking females visit the den? They would. If they had cubs, they would. But there's no point in them being here unless they have cubs. It's an attraction point, I suppose, for other potential predators. They have to be around. If the matriarch has got cubs, the low-ranking ones then have to be around her, which means that if there is something to eat, she's going to totally dominate them. It makes much more sense if they're not lactating and with cubs for them to be away from the den, foraging within the territory, eating what they can on their own without having to share it with higher-ranking animals. So that's basically why a low-ranking female wouldn't come here. There's no real point in them coming here. Our clan is not a very big one, though, let us not forget. As far as we know, there are about 18 or so adults within this clan, and that's not very big. And on that sort of same note, Cheyenne, you are interested in whether or not they will cross-suckle. Would they adopt a youngster whose mother died, perhaps, or would a high-ranking female feed a lower-ranking female's cubs? Hyenas do not cross-suckle. They're not like lions. If a female dies and she's got cubs, her cubs will die with her, even if there are other lactating females. I'm so pleased we got here when we did. They like to play in the early dawn light. And now you can see things really starting to quieten down here. Unless there's something going on the other side. You may have seen taxon moving around there. But I think things are going to pretty much calm down now. Let's just reverse a little bit. Let's reverse a little bit down the way there. Have a look there as you're looking at the sky starting to blue as the cold front breaks up. Well done, Brian. Marvelous. It is a magnificent sky. It's a very subtle sky. It's just not an exploding sort of kaleidoscope of yellows and reds and oranges. It's a very subtle sort of blue and gentle shades of pale yellow in the clouds there with a bit of grey. Marvellous. Very fresh smells all over. Even though we're at the hyena den, it's not very dirty at all, which is quite nice. And a single dove calling off to exactly where you're looking there. And so, Andy, I think you picked up on the call of that bird. It is a ring-necked dove. Isn't that lovely? Let's just reverse a little bit. Now, this afternoon, while I reverse back, the great reveal will occur. And by the great reveal, I mean that our long-awaited traversing on Cheetah Plains kicks into effect. The technical team of geniuses who we have working here, consisting of Peter and Connor and Alex and Eugene, have managed to get a tower up with the help of some fairly hefty humans. And we will be broadcasting for the first time live from Cheetah Plains today. And And Sharon, you tweeted about whether or not there's a hyena clan there. I think you'll find that this hyena clan probably extends onto Cheetah Plains. I'm not sure exactly. The hyena clan we know goes south of our boundary, which means onto Hoffman's and Little Gowrie. Whether it goes that far to the east or not, I don't know. But we will find out. All will be revealed. There will be some new leopards, no doubt, which is very exciting. We have got better chances of seeing the Birmingham boys because they do spend a lot more time kind of in the southern reaches of their territory. We also have got more chances of seeing things like cheetah. Now, that's not just because it's called Cheetah Plains. Obviously, the lodges kind of name themselves after, well, they can name them after whatever they want to name them. But there are actually chances of seeing cheetah there simply because they have got open areas where the geology is different, and so the hunting terrain is much more suited to cheetah. I think we're going to get one more view of these hyenas, if that. And Taxon's making his way out, which means that they're probably hiding. Can you see one down there? Now, that's interesting. I'm just going to stick my nose in here. Right. I wonder if they haven't been using this as a temporary den sometimes. When we've come through here and we've seen nothing, they may have watched us just drive in and out. There goes Tax with about 74 children on the back of his vehicle. And in the background, you can hear a Steeling's wren warbler. And now, so close, we can't see them. So that is Ribbon. I'm now starting to recognize those. He has got a sort of lengthy, quite thick stripe of spots on either side of his flanks. Maybe that's what's the obvious identifier there. There seems to be a bit of pasting going on here, marking, anal pasting. You can see him walking over the grass, lifting up his tail, and what that will do is just expose the anal gland, which will then rub over those grasses. Hello, Grant. An interesting question from you that's actually quite difficult to answer. How did the hyena evolve? Well, hello. There's one right here. Hi. So, Grant, I don't know really what you mean, except to say that the hyena has evolved, just like anything else, to fill a niche. And the niche that they fill in this particular area is as the apex scavenger. Well, semi-apex scavenger and semi-apex predator. So they're very variable. They can scavenge or hunt with equal success, depending on the area that they live in. They're very dominant. And so they fulfilled a niche where they were able to sort of steal food if they had to, or they've evolved the ability to hunt very successfully as a pack, which, say in the same way that wild dogs do, or in the same way as hyenas do, not hyenas, as lions do. So, Grant, that's the kind of shortest answer I can give you. What did they evolve from? Well, they would have evolved from a common ancestor eventually to all the cats. The cats and the mongoose would have had a common ancestor many millions of years ago, and one line from that common ancestor would have formed the cats as we know them. One would have gone towards the mongoose, and the other eventually would have got to the hyenas. But more than that of the evolutionary history, I'm not really sure, Grant. And then Davino, a nice question from you about the function of what we call the pseudo-penis. Now, for those of you who are perhaps new viewers, it's difficult to sex hyenas, and that's often why I get it wrong and why many of us get it wrong. They all have what appears to be a penis. The female's is called a pseudo-penis, and it's in enlarged clitoris, and the males have got a standard issue penis in the same way that all other mammals do. And Davina, your question is, why do they have this situation? What is the function of it? No one has satisfactorily answered that question, Davina, save to say that the pseudopenis functions in a strange way, in that there's no vaginal opening on a hyena, so she must give birth through the pseudopenis, and she must also mate through it, which makes mating awkward and it makes birth dangerous. But we think that the reason it has evolved is because of the incredible testosterone load that a female hyena carries. So it might be a sort of trade-off where, although it's not perhaps the most convenient thing in the world, it's not inconvenient enough for it to be an evolutionary disadvantage. In the same way that human beings, our birth is very dangerous. We've evolved into a species where we give birth and our birth is very dangerous, but it's dangerous because we're bipedal. Our hips are situated in such a way that it makes the birth canal very narrow. But that disadvantage has not outweighed the advantage of being bipedal. So in the same way with a hyena, as evolution has acted on them, natural selection has acted on the spotted hyena, and it's only the spotted hyena that has this. So there are 3 or 4 other members of the family, and they don't have the same situation. So despite the fact that there is an evolutionary disadvantage in that it's perhaps not healthy all the time to have that pseudopenis because it makes birth dangerous, the disadvantage of that is outweighed by the extra testosterone and the kind of female-dominated society that they have, which has made them one of the most successful carnivores in Africa. So, Davino, I hope that answers your question. I love questions like that. I think they're really fantastic. They inspire a lot of different discussions. So thank you very much for that. I think we're going to leave the hyenas now. There doesn't seem to be much going on here now. Let's go back to Brent Leo Smith. He has been following up on our favorite daughter, the queen of Ajuma, and let's find out if he's managed to find her.
Hello. So we got called to some leopard tracks around the lodge, heading towards Zoe's Road. Now, I incorrectly assumed that they were Karula's. It's not, it's the tracks of a male. So we're just having a quick look here, and then I will go back to Karula's tracks. But another interesting development out in this area. You see them there, somewhere in the distance there. Vultures in the tree. Yes. So there's a couple of vultures in the tree, so we're going to have a look a bit closer. Now, this is very close to where we had those vultures on the sunset safari, except on the other side of the road. And I don't think anyone's checked. It was a bit late for us to check properly last night. So let's go have a look. And it is turning into an absolutely stunning morning. Turning into an absolutely gorgeous morning. The sun is about to burst through. It's wonderful after all this grey, dreary, windy, cold weather we've been experiencing. And even the clouds that we started with this morning are starting to dissipate, causing quite a beautiful sky. Listening for a second or two. So, of course, the last time we saw Mr. T, or Tingana, who's the dominant male leopard in this area, he was looking a little worse for wear. And a lot of you, including Sandy in the great state of Texas, is wondering, how's he doing? Well, unfortunately, your guess is as good as mine. He hasn't been seen since then, but I'm sure he's surviving just fine. So the other vultures were just on the other side of the road last night of Gari Main. So the reason... Oh, I hear some lions calling somewhere, quite far from where we are, but I just want to listen anyway. Oh, they're very far. Going to update the guys on the vultures, and there's a very good reason why the vultures might be quite spread out and still in the tree, which generally means there might be still a kill on the ground. But the reason they choose specific trees, and they like dead trees generally, it's because there's no branches and things for them, their large wingspan to get caught in. So there's vultures sitting in a dead tree over there, and there's vultures sitting in a dead tree over there, which sometimes makes it a little bit challenging to find why they're sitting. But the fact there's about 7 or 8 there, and I think there's 4 or 5 here, it's a good indication that there could be something expired in the area. There's quite a lot of Makoti on Impala Road, just to the north of Impala Plains. There's also some on Gari Main. I'm just going to check in the area a bit. Oh, look at that. A vulture sunrise. Look at that. A white-backed vulture silhouetted in the sunrise. So while we continue to check this area, let's jump off to James, who's with a striped donkey. Okay, look at that sky with the vulture. So we're not jumping on with James. You're sticking with Jeandre and myself. And it's quite useful to just listen. Now, we're probably listening for the low growl of a lion, but if they've been here for a day or two, they might be fat and flatulent and not doing too much growling. So what are you here to scavenge, vulture? Now, it could be the Nkuhumas. They disappeared a few days ago, doing a favorite trick of theirs, using their hidden wings to fly across the road and not leave a track for us to follow. Now, for those of you not sure who the Nkuhumas are, they're a pride of lions, our most regular seen pride of lions. But Jamie and Sam are out on tracking team, so what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to call them in, ask them to go stomp around in this area, see if they can catch a cat by the tail, and we're going to go head back and see if we can follow up on Karula. Oh, there's hyena tracks here. I just heard from Taxon that there were hyenas running south from around the den, and this is south of the den. We'll just go a little bit further and check. No, there's definitely something up and about here. I'm definitely going to call Jamie if I don't, and Sam. I'm going to show you now. There's nonsense afoot. And especially with the cold weather we've been having, vultures haven't been that active, and the fact that there are this many vultures and some giraffe. But I mean, look at that. There's something afoot here. And apart from the male giraffe feeling amorous, which he is, so while we watch that giraffe, ooh, yes, try his luck, I'm just going to call Jamie quickly. Jamie. Ooh, she might be feeling amorous as well. Jamie, could you guys come to Impala Road around the power lines? There's a good 40 or 50 vultures in the trees around here. Oh, James is now coming as well. James, the vultures spread from the edge of Impala Plains almost to the power lines. The biggest concentration is in the block between Impala Plains and the power lines. Copy. Sorry guys, back with you. Now let's have a look at the amorous giraffe. Now, I can't see any other giraffe. I can't see any youngsters around. And we have watched the male giraffe being quite forward before. But this time he actually looks like he might be. Oh, there we go. Oh, he's trying to mate with her. That's incredible. Now, she is showing signs that she is quite excited at the prospect, even though she moved off that time. Now watch his, oh, look how she backs towards him. Oh, it looks like we've just been caught. And we're getting the look that I'm sure most peeping Toms get occasionally. But no, more important things to do. Babies to be made. You can see how she's rubbing her back against him. And, oh, that's definite giraffe flirting going on there. So she's almost certainly an estrus. Might not be quite ready to mate yet, or they might have mated already before we arrived. They will mate multiple times. So, of course, a male is a massive animal and quite heavy. And you can see he's almost preparing to make his leap onto her back. You can have a look at his tail. He's lost the tip of it at some point in his life. Now, it could be from hyenas or lions. It's fascinating. It's quite the dance. Quite going on at the moment. We might see a phlegm and grimace shortly. In the giraffe, it's not nearly as obvious as in other animals. Okay, I think he's going to try and mount her again. as he's about to leap, she just moves forward that slight bit. Definitely possessing some feminine wiles here. What's that old saying, Jean-Andre? Treat him mean, keep him keen. Unfortunately, they've gone right into the sun, so Jean-Andre is doing his best to give you the best picture, but I don't want to start the vehicle and move in case it disturbs them. Well, we've got him in profile. You can see the massive difference between the male and female in height and also in size. And you can see how those horns on the male, the ossicones, don't have all that fluffy hair, and the scar tissue buildup on his front part of his skull from bashing against other giraffes. Is quite beautiful in the silhouette. You can see how much more delicate and feminine her features are compared to his. Oh. Well, they're showing a little bit of tact. Going behind the bush. Oh, there we go. At least he's moved out behind the bush now. Oh, is he going to jump? This is absolutely fascinating. It is quite the process, it seems. I've only seen giraffe mating a handful of times. Well, are we going to see? I don't want to move the car, as I said. I know they're in a bit of an awkward position, but this is absolutely fascinating. Definitely do feel a little bit like a voyeur in staring into the private, intimate moments between a male and female giraffe. This is probably not the only male she'll mate with while she's in estrus. And it's actually quite surprising to just see one male trying to mate. Quite often you will have multiple males, and that's where you see those impressive giraffe fights. So if they do mate, he will jump up onto her and stand on his hind legs. And he's just trying to get himself in position. She keeps just moving ever so slightly to make it more difficult for him. As I said, there's a strong possibility they might have mated already before we arrived, but I'm not too sure. I think it hasn't happened just yet. Oh, there we go. Oh, she got away. So she might be in early estrus. She's maybe just coming into estrus. So not quite ready to mate yet, but it's definitely on the cards. Hello, madam. You're very flirtatious. Look, battering those long eyelashes. Just going to be on the game drive radio for a second. James. So it looks like she's evaded him for now. And I can see James has arrived at the trees that are full of vultures, because I can see them taking off. So let's go have a look at those incredible birds of prey.
Now, we've come into the area where Brent said there were lots of vultures, and there are lots of them here. Over there, white-backed vultures, a tree full of white-backed vultures. And then as we pan off to the right-hand side, we've got a mixed suite here of white-backed and hooded. You can see the hooded, or the slightly lower down ones with their slightly more delicate beaks for eating different kinds of meat. And then further off to the right from there, another great swathe of white-backed vultures. They're the most common vultures of the area. And we came into here because, well, Brent obviously spotted them, but there was some on the ground right around where we are now. There is another one on the ground. I don't know if you can see that one, Brian. Can you see it there? Sort of sitting on a dead log. So I don't know what's going on here. Something has died, no question. Whether whatever killed whatever has died is still here, I don't know. We don't know where the Nkuhuma Pride are. We haven't seen anything, sign of them for the last little while. So let's just stick our noses slowly into this clearing and see what we can find. Now, the vultures don't like for us to be around them, and often they will fly away. Now, this lot, the fact that they haven't flied, the ones flied, I cannot actually believe I just said that. The fact that they haven't flown away indicates to me that there is food around here for them. You see, they didn't fly away there, Brian?
I did.
So we're going to ease our way into this block and see if we can't get a decent view of what might be attracting their attentions. As we drive along here, you might be able to see there is a game path, and it makes it, I mean, they come through the clearing. I'm just going to try and get hold of Brent as well on the game drive. Of course, he will be desperate now that I might find these predators while he is waiting for the giraffe to perform. There's something else coming off the ground there. Brent, go ahead. Now, Brentie's just told me that the Nkuhuma Pride has been found at One Eye Pan in Simbambili, which is just over there. So the chances are that they did kill something here, and they are now having a drink there. Anyway, we'll keep following up here. Something large has met its end around this particular area. Copy, Brent. I'm in the block there. There are a couple sort of coming off the ground here and there, so I'm just going to have a look through here. While we drive through here, Red on YouTube. I don't know how you managed to get the name Red without having been taken already. That's very clever of you. Red, you want to know how it is that, or how quickly vultures can eat a carcass? Well, Red, that's a bit of a how long is a piece of string kind of question. It really does depend on how big the carcass is, of course. Now, in the case of a buffalo, well, it also depends what's killed it and how much of it they eat. So, Red, I would say it's not possible to answer the question. But let's say that buffalo, at least a buffalo, is killed by some lions, and the lions then eat their fill, and they leave a little bit off, or, you know, the sort of standard amount for the vultures. They will normally sit on the carcass then probably for 2 or 3 days before disappearing. Look at that beautiful picture there of the vultures with the mountains in the background.
I have a problem. James? I have a problem.
You have a problem? Ah, okay. We do have a small problem with the camera. You've got no leveling, do you?
I can't lock it off.
Okay. We're going to try and get back across to Brent and see if we can't fix this problem. Jerry, we're going to have to link. We can't move the vehicle at the moment. Let's go across to Brent. We'll keep an eye out here and try and fix the camera problem.
So we do apologize. Hopefully Brian manages to fix that very quickly. But the giraffe have moved off. I don't think he's about to get lucky. As I said, I think it's early estrus. But there's someone who should be getting lucky quite shortly. Now, the wildebeest rat is started, and we have seen some interesting behavior. Unfortunately for this poor soul, he ain't got no ladies yet, but they will move through to this area. This is a good wildebeest area. So he'll defend this territory and wait for the ladies to come to him. So nice short grasses around here that wildebeest, oh, he's going to walk to us, that wildebeest prefer. Off he goes. He's looking in particularly good nick. I'm sure the ladies are going to find him very attractive. So wildebeest have quite a different strategy to impala for the rut. So they will defend a specific area, whereas impala will defend a specific group of females. So it's very interesting how you notice that different animals have different strategies when it comes to mating. And speaking of mating, when we saw some attempts at mating by that male giraffe. Linda's wondering, every time he sort of tried to mount or nudge her, she moved away. Does this mean, if she didn't, would this mean she's ready? Yes and no. Sometimes, especially she looks like quite a young female, she might be a bit nervous of the weight of him leaping on top of her. But yes, I think she's probably coming into estrus and he's just getting very excited. But as she sort of gets further into estrus, she'll probably stand and copulate. They shouldn't move too far, so it might be worth having a squiz around here on the sunset safari. So I think James would have given you that update, but I just heard that they have found the Incahumas, and they're very close to where those vultures are, but unfortunately across our western boundary. So we're going to make our way back towards the last leopard tracks and see what we can find there. But definitely a crisp morning, and I think winter has arrived. well done to Deanna on YouTube, who said, is a group of vultures called a wake? I'm not 100% sure, but I think if it's not, it definitely should be. Oh, and don't forget, very exciting on tonight's Sunday. Live at Cheetah Plains. And of course, old Murphy's probably going to be around. So whoever goes down there is probably going to see a few blades of grass. What have you spotted, Jean-Andre? Is it the same too? Ah! He is hot in pursuit, and she is hightailing it out of there. He, of course, can't hightail because he is lacking the bottom of his tail. She's moved off quite quickly already into the trees, and he is definitely on the march. So as I said, probably early estrus, not quite ready to mate yet. Probably a day or so before he's going to get lucky. Suddenly become very bright. You can speak, Jean-Andre.
In the spares box.
In the spares box. So Brian and James.
And on the tripod.
And on the tripod. There we go. Going back, they have a problem with their fluid head. Now, the fluid head is this wonderful piece of equipment that the camera is mounted on. It makes it look so effortlessly smooth when our cameramen move it and sway it from side to side. And Jean-Andre, is there actually fluid in the fluid head? Yes, there we go, he nods. Jean-Andre doesn't like talking too much on camera, so I have to do his talking for him. There is fluid inside the head, and it's quite viscous, so, or not?
Depends on the temperature.
It depends on the temperature. So the warmer it is, the less viscous it is. The cooler it is, the more viscous it is. And obviously that just gives a little bit of something to work against so you don't rock or jump. Apparently I'm wrong completely. Maybe we'll get Jean-Ray to give you a lesson in fluid heads a little bit later on the Sunrise Safari. And strangely enough, Jean-Ray on the vehicle is the quietest of souls, but in camp, the loudest of people. After me, of course. Good morning, Alice, who's in Ohio. And Alice would like to know, does the Anderson male's territory expand onto Cheetah Plains? It does not. It is far to the west, and Cheetah Plains is far to the east, so it's literally as far from the Anderson male's territory as you can get. The male leopard that currently holds dominion over Cheetah Plains is Tingana. They often also see Shavumba lion, who's a young male leopard. I'm not 100% on his age. Someone could send that in for me. How old is Shavumba lion? One of Karula's sprogs. And he's getting to an age, I think, where he's going to be able to start competing for territory. Oh, there have been elephants on top of us since we drove down this road some minutes ago. Oh, I do love the smell of elephants in the morning. Smells like a musk bull. Trampety tramp, 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 and he's heading this way. Where did he go? Oh! Here he go. Where did he go? very strong, musty smell in the air. And very exciting as it warms up. The butterflies are going to be ready to start flying about, and we're going to definitely have a look for some butterflies. I do have my book with me today, so we are prepared. And I have been trying to find that what I thought was a Charaxes that we saw on yesterday's sunset safari, but I'm afraid I think I might be incorrect. It could be something related to Charaxes. I used to know it. That's the thing that's terrible, that I can't remember. But we will have a look a little later once the butterflies are out and about. It's still a bit nippy. There's still a bit too much dew around for them to be fluttering by. So apparently a wake is only a group of vultures that are feeding, and thanks to Eric for that one. Now there are some wonderful, wonderful collective nouns for birds. I think my personal favorite is ravens, and it is a conspiracy of ravens. That's one of my favorites. And also a murder of crows, and a parliament of owls. So, speaking of crows and ravens, Monkey Man would like to know, are there any that we can see on the live safaris? There are. I think last year I had a pied crow, a pied crow on the safari, and we do get crows passing through here and ravens, but a pied crow, if I remember correctly, is the one I saw last year. Now, you can actually sometimes find crows on big carcasses like buffalo or elephant. They are also attracted at the same as the vultures are, except they're a little bit less Catholic in their diet. They'll take a lot more different foods rather than just carrion. But carrion is their favorite. And on a lot of the highways in South Africa, as I'm sure in a lot of places where you guys are, the ravens and crows are basically the cruisers of the highways, picking up any roadkill. And there we go. Let's just do this quickly. So there we go. That is the pied crow. Of course, pied because he's black and white. Now, if I remember correctly, that's the only one I've seen in the Sabi Sands. So one of the biggest problems we have in Africa with birds is this guy, the house crow, or the Indian house crow. Now, they've taken over certain cities, especially in East Africa, and the government actually pay, I think it's 100 Tanzanian shillings for a dead adult and 50 shillings for a dead baby or an egg. So they've literally wiped out the indigenous bird species. They're incredibly aggressive. And in South Africa, we don't have too much of a problem yet. They're all around the port cities. So Durban, Port Elizabeth, and East London and Cape Town is the only place you find them here. And of course in Mozambique in Maputo. Now, this is how they started in Tanzania, and they've now become such a problem, they're spreading inland rapidly. And the fascinating thing is that The robin chats and things like that, who normally are very conspicuous callers, will only call in the dark. Because to avoid the attack of the house crows and that, physically go after them, any bird. Siberia says there's a group of hardy-dar ibis called the noise. I would agree with that, but I would say I think I'd even almost go with a cacophony of hardy-dar. Yeah, we're now back in tracking mode on the search for the queen of Juma Karula, the female leopard. Very bright, all of a sardine. Naughty elephants. And a monster millipede. The elephant has been naughty, it's left a branch on the road. Oh. But what I really stopped for was not to move the branch. Oh, it feels incredible. There's multiple feet just walking down my hand. Oh, he got a fright. Look at that instant response, curled up into the defensive position. And see how his legs are moving to try and make sure there's as little of the sensitive parts as possible out. So he's trying to tuck himself in using his legs. Look at that. Oh, he's deciding he's not so scared now. Let's, before he gets too worried, let's put him down. Off you go, Mr. Millipede. No, off my hand. He doesn't want to leave now. There we go. So very few mammal species are able to feed off that particular creature because of what he eats. He eats some plants that are quite noxious. So they have poisons in them, and those poisons come through as hydrogen cyanides if you eat the millipede. So I wouldn't ever recommend, even if you're really hungry, Jandre, eating a millipede, or anyone out there for that matter. But if you are an African civet, it's a delicacy. So the African civet's pancreas releases a very specialized enzyme that will actually break up those poisons into non-harmful proteins. Now, outside of southern Africa, in the rainforest, where there are lots of millipedes, so in Gabon or Congo, there, one would think there's a lot of food available, but there's not really, and a lot of the food is very seasonal. So quite a few of the animal species there have had to adapt to find different sources of food. And a lot of the duikers in the rainforest have developed that same trick as the civet, and they eat a lot of millipedes. They also hunt birds and eat birds' eggs. So incredible how in different areas animals have evolved to be able to deal with different things. So we've just seen that wonderful multi-legged creature, the millipede. But Sabi was wondering, are there any arachnids, spiders or scorpions, that might bite an animal, causing it discomfort or effect? Most definitely, but I don't think, as with most of the spiders and scorpions, non-lethal. Hang on 1 second. Siberia. It's not Karula. There's a honey badger who's marched down the road here. You can see the marching tracks of the honey badger. Now, we see a lot more honey badger tracks than we do honey badgers. Hopefully we can change that. And I think this winter is going to be quite a good one for seeing a lot of the abnormal stuff. But while we continue to look for the queen, James has got some feathered friends atop a tree.
Okay, so we've got some massing starlings here. That's one flying off. The bird in the center of the picture, of course, is a fork-tailed drongo. He's not going anywhere. But just before you came live, there are about 6 or 7 plum-colored starlings or violet-backed starlings in this tree, and they are now disappearing off overseas. They go away for the winter, and they're starting to mass. You don't normally see them in groups. They're normally on their own or in little pairs, but soon they are going to fly away for the winter time. So when we get to this time of the year, just before most of the birds leave us, you do find them sitting in groups together, sort of looking wistfully northward. The other one that we haven't heard for a long time and haven't seen is the woodland kingfisher. And I saw him the other day, I saw her actually, with a little baby, well, a young fledgling, and she had caught a massive centipede, about that long, and she then beat it to death on a branch, and then she sort of half macerated it, and then she gave it to her youngster, who swallowed it whole. It looked like a fairly disgusting breakfast. But the interesting thing was that I thought they'd all gone away because we're not hearing them at all anymore, and I think most have. Maybe, though, there's the odd parent with a fledgling sort of eating the last of that they can before they head north into the sort of central regions or the northern regions of Africa, just south of the Sahara. So interesting times for the migrating birds. I love the subject of bird migration. I find it completely fascinating, completely astounding how these birds migrate and navigate and find where they have to go. And I was learning a few fun facts the other day, which I will now share with you, if I can remember them. The longest migration, it belongs to the Arctic tern, which does 50,000 kilometers a year. 50,000 kilometers, that is in miles, roughly 30,000 miles a year. So 25,000 kilometers each way, 15,000 miles each way from the Arctic tundra, where it breeds, down to the sort of southern islands of the Antarctic, where it spends its summer, well, our summer months and your winter months. Well, the northern hemisphere's winter months. I know some of our viewers are sitting in the south. Then, the longest flight, as far as I'm aware, the longest continuous flight is about 11,600 kilometers. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, that is the bar-tailed godwit. Bar-tailed godwit, which flies also from the Arctic down sort of across through the Pacific and ends up in Australia and New Zealand in order for it to spend the summer down here. So that's the longest one. And then the highest bird ever recorded, and this is quite amusing because the way it was found was that an aeroplane hit it. It was a Rupel's vulture flying at 11,300 meters above sea level. Now, that is astonishing. That is about 35 to 40,000 feet above sea level. That's where this Rupel's vulture was flying. And quite apart from the fact that it hit the aeroplane, which must have been very terrifying for the inhabitants of the aeroplane, or the passengers and the pilot, the temperature up there is probably close to minus 30 or 40 degrees Celsius. I don't know what that is in Fahrenheit, but it's amazingly cold. The oxygen is so thin that you and I wouldn't survive up there for very long. We certainly wouldn't survive without special suits and that sort of thing on. So how on earth the Ruppel's vulture manages to survive up there has got something to do with some very sophisticated blood or hemoglobin, which carries a lot of, or is able to carry more oxygen than our hemoglobin can. So just amazing adaptations for birds who have to migrate enormous distances. So those are my 3 fun facts of the day. Brian, height, length, or distance, and height, distance, and what was the other one? Oh, length of flight, the longest flight. 11,600 kilometers to one flight. Now, a very nice question here from Deanna on YouTube about starlings and their flights. And Brian and I were chatting as we drove home to fix the fluid head on this camera. Now, the lions are just down here at One Eye Pan, which we can't go to because it's on Simbambalai. But I'm just wondering, Diana, we'll get back to your question. I'm just wondering, my plan was to come along here, find their tracks going across, and then follow them in towards the vultures, because the vultures are all in this particular area here, but I don't see their tracks anywhere. So I think it's going to be well worthwhile just following up on those vultures still. I don't see the lion tracks. So Brian and I were chatting on our way back to fix the camera, about how animals communicate, and we were talking about it because we saw that little group of zebras. And Brian said, well, you know, how is it that they know how to talk to each other? Do they, you know, what is the communication? And I said, I don't really know. And we talked about this sort of thing of ESP. Do they communicate on a level that we perhaps don't really fully understand? And one of the animals that does that, of course, I think, is the starlings and the quilias and those bait balls of fish, which gather in enormous groups, and they form those murmurations of starlings, as Diana has said to us. And you want to know if the starlings here ever form murmurations, where enormous flocks of millions of birds or hundreds of thousands of birds will flock together and move as one in one direction and swish all over the place, and it's an astonishing thing to see. And the answer is no, they don't. We don't have enough of them here. But we do have the red-billed quelea, and the red-billed quelea does precisely the same thing. Somehow, these millions of birds turn as one in the sky. They don't crash into each other. They just all know where to turn, when to turn, and how to turn. And it is an absolutely astonishing thing that science has so far failed to understand. Thank you for that, Diana. I'm good. The vultures are a little further south of here. I can see them now over there. But we're just going to see if we can't pick up the lion tracks here. Now, Teresa, the wingspan of... If you want to know the wingspan of those vultures, well, it does very much depend on the species of vulture that you happen to be looking at. The largest ones that we have there are the white-backed vultures, and their wingspan, if I'm not mistaken, is about 1.8 meters. That's just over 6 feet. So that's quite a wide wingspan. The bird itself stands about that high. It probably stands about 2.5 to 3 feet high. But I will get that exact information for you shortly. We're just going to very slowly and patiently drive down this road. It is a main access road, which means that any sort of track that an animal leaves is almost certainly going to be obliterated very quickly by the vehicles going up and down, dropping guests off and dropping food off that guests are going to eat, and Sabi Sands conservation chaps going up and down here.
Guys, Karula's brought her cubs to Juma. We've been tracking her. Look at the little guy. We just came around the corner. We're just going to keep very still. Isn't this amazing? Look. Here they come. Oh, my goodness. Isn't this exciting? this is incredible. And I said I could hear the pitter-patter of little feet this morning. I wonder if she's taking them to their first kill. This is amazing. Isn't this exciting? I'm literally speechless at the moment. You can hear all the birds alarm calling at them. Oh, look at that. It's so cute. Look at that little one running up. So you can see they're able to climb trees now. This is absolutely amazing. So we're going to keep our distance from them while she's moving with them. We will stay with them. I'm hoping she's taking them to their first kill. I'm literally shivering with excitement. I don't even know if I can drive. I said we're going to keep our distance a little bit while she's moving with them. And they're playing and running around off to the left in the bush, unfortunately, at the moment. I don't know what to say. Let's just enjoy it. The cubs are still behind her. She's laying down. So what I've done is just moved in front of her, and we're going to try sit here. She's probably going to call them right to her. They were playing in a tree a little bit off to the right of where she is now. There we go. So we're going to see some incredible stuff now. So leopard and jaguar are the only two cats that chuff as a form of communication, and it's sort of a low. Oh, sorry, Karila, I didn't mean to chuff at you. But we were going to watch it, and with cubs, they chuff a lot. So I'm just checking that there isn't a kill close by here somewhere in the trees. Doesn't look like it. So we spent a lot of time habituating Kajima. Now these cubs have been seen, but they're still going to need some habituation. They haven't been spent a lot of time around vehicles. And that's why I'm keeping my distance a little bit. And I'm speaking a little bit softly. There we go, she's calling to them. Stop playing over there and come here, you naughty little things. Yeah, I'm just going to call it in on the radio quickly. Yeah, there's that chuffing. Stations located Karula and Tumampimpan Shabam Road. One vehicle sighting for the moment. It looks like she might be taking them to some nyama. I will keep everyone updated. And we're just going to still keep our distance. As I said, the cubs aren't probably the most relaxed yet. So we are going to stay a little bit away. There you go. Bye-bye. Can you still see her? There she is. So I'm just going to stay here for a little bit. Cubs were playing on a termite mound in a tree up there. So we're not going to go directly to the cubs. We're going to stay with her. She might be leaving them here if she is going off hunting. But if she does leave them, we will, at this age, we're not going to view them without her. So we will always, till they're quite a bit older, we will only view the cubs when they're with their mother. You can see I'm moving very slowly at the moment, even though she is quite far away. There is a chance we'll lose her, but I would rather have the cubs relaxed than us getting too close or making too much noise. So we're probably keeping about 50 or 60 meters at the moment. Can you still see her, Jean-Jacques? Now, I'm just going to go around this thicket. If we go into the thicket, it might make a bit too much noise, and we don't want to do that. So I think there's a very strong possibility she might be taking them to a kill. Oh no, of course I'm caught. Well, there we go. Jean-Jacques found his voice because I'm in pain.
Snake skin.
And a snake skin. Should have let it whip round and hit Jean-Jacques since he was taking so much joy about the thorns in my arm. Okay, so we have lost visual of her, so I'm still going to keep a distance here. We've got her general direction. And I'm pretty sure, so that first set of tracks we found this morning was just her. I think she's killed something, and now she's gone back to fetch the cubs. Oh, that was very close. Land Rover doors and me are going to have an accident one of these days. So I'm sitting up just so I can have a bit more visual. So we're just chatting about this, and Suzanne's wondering, while we were tracking Karula, did we see cub tracks? So the tracks we found this morning, there were no cub tracks. which has lent me to believe that she's killed something and she's gone back to fetch the cubs. I'm going to switch off, and what I'm going to listen for is any of the birds or alarm calling. Standing by, James. James, I think it's one for the moment, and I'm keeping it to one vehicle sighting. I think she is taking them to some nyama, but I've lost her. We've been keeping quite far back. I will update as soon as I find her again. Copy will do. So we're just going to loop around now, back towards, in case she's laid down and got that meat closer to where we were. So we are going to jump back on board with James while we try and get around and find her again. But don't worry, as soon as I get sight of those little bundles of joy, we will be jumping straight back on with Jandre and myself.
Well, 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 isn't this wonderful? I don't necessarily mean that incredible artistic picture that Brian has formed there, but the arrival of the Queen and the princes and princesses, we don't know what they are yet, is extremely marvelous indeed. How incredible is this? And I'm deeply hopeful that she's going to keep them this side, mainly because that's kind of the core of her territory. So we may be in, let's hope, we may be in for another long while with them over the next few months. So let's hope. Anyway, Brenty is going to do his best in the most sensitive manner to re-find them. As he says, he thinks that they are going towards a kill, perhaps, and let's just hope that that is the case, and that they then spend an extended period here on Juma. I'm, of course, putting on a brave face right now because I'm massively, massively jealous of the fact that we are bumbling around here trying to find a kill that the Nkuhumas probably finished days ago somewhere in here, but that Brent is with those magnificent little leopards. I've seen them once before when they were very small. I was just driving along the road and she happened to have them out, and they were only about that big then. And now they're probably a lot bigger than that and walking around. This is just wonderful. Anyway, my plan from here is to spend a little bit of time around this area, see if we can't find what they killed, the Nkuhumas, I mean. And in the meantime, I will keep you posted. There are even more vultures up there. Yeah, we get the harbingers of death, and yet the new life of the cubs just to the south of where we are now. It's very poetic, isn't it, Brian?
That was fantastic.
Yeah, thank you. I wonder if that kill isn't inside Arathusa here. We're now on the Arathusa border, and it could well be inside there. Now, of course, the chances are that we're going to see Nkanyeni, if I'm not mistaken, and her babies as well when we start driving around on cheetah plains this afternoon. So the chances of many leopards of young generation are very high. Very exciting times indeed. I think let's go down this way here. And Nice. Aqua, you have asked some very astute questions over the last little while, and you want to know why it is that Ruppel's vulture would have been so high up in the sky. It was at 11,000, no, what was it at? Yeah, it was about, I've lost my mind now, about 11,000 feet, and at least 11,000 meters. Why was it up that high? Well, the answer, I think, is because that's often how they move. If they go between different areas, they will often go up that high because there are air currents there that help them to fly in certain directions that they want to go. It's energy efficient to be up there, and that's why he would have been up there, he or she. I don't know that, in fact, I'm fairly sure that he or she, the Ruppel's vulture, did not survive the trauma of that mid-air collision. Enormous vultures that we have here, taking off, taking to the skies. There's a little bit of heat now, but you can see as they take off, their flight is quite labored. And while we look in amongst all the white-backed vultures, we must be careful that we don't misidentify one as a Cape vulture, the largest vulture species that we get here, and they've got they're almost identical to these white-backed vultures, but they also have a honey-colored eye. So if you see them standing next to one, next to a whiteback, that's the kind of obvious denominator. Brent is still looking, everybody, fear not. And he has limited it to a one-vehicle sighting, which I think is very wise. And that just means that while they're moving, there won't be any pressure on those cubs. They'll be able to hear what's going on. And so if she does take them to a kill, for example, it could well be possible that he'll open it up to 2 sightings. That's an interesting one. And most of the vultures, as we know around here, are not killers of their own food. Other kills. And Brenda, you want to know if one of these vultures was to see those cubs, would they be able to take one? Would they attempt to take one? And the answer is probably no. I don't think they would. I think there are records of the lappet-faced vulture trying to kill its own prey and killing its own prey. That's a pretty big vulture. Cape vulture maybe as well. A vulture here, these vultures have got very weak tarsal muscles. So whereas you've got something like a martial eagle or a crowned eagle, which has the power in the tarsals to crush, so their talons can crush the skull of a monkey or whatever it is that they're attacking. The muscles in a white-backed vulture, or in most of the vultures, are actually pretty weak. There they fly. You can see why they're called white-backed. There are lots and lots of them around here. It'd be fascinating to know what on earth was met its end in this facility. So, Brenda, they don't have the muscle power. And I went to a rehab center once where we fed a vulture, and the vulture came and sat on our arms, and you feel absolutely no pressure from it at all. It doesn't have those great squeezing muscles that the big raptors like the crowned eagle or the martial eagle have. So it'd be very difficult for them to kill something like those cubs. Those cubs are, I mean, look, they're not out of danger by any stretch of the imagination, but they've made it through possibly the most dangerous phase. The most dangerous phase that they have is before they're able to move, or before they're able to move with their mothers, before they're able to climb a tree, and before they're able to smell and understand danger. And that just seems to be the most dangerous time for a leopard cub. I'm in 2 minds as what to do now. Let's just watch those vultures. If they start to take off, if they go down again, then I will assume that there is sufficient meat around for us to hang around. If they don't, and I don't think they are, I think they're taking off. They seem to have found a little thermal just as the heat is starting to build up a little bit. So they are flying up into the sky. Yeah. So I'm going to assume that whatever it is they were eating yesterday, whatever it is the Nkahuma pride we're assuming was eating is finished, and that although we've had a wonderful time with the vultures, they ain't going to go down and see what else there is to eat. And we're going to therefore move on and see what else we can find, while Brent continues to search very sensitively for Karula. So, just to keep you posted, and I'm sure Brent told you this, but he has to stay well back from them. He doesn't want to make a big noise next to them, simply because he wants them to be able to hear. James Richard, a wonderful comment from you. You say, the cubs represent what is so great about Safari Live, because the finding of them sitting on the road there was just such an emotional flush for everybody around the world. You all felt such a tremendous sense of emotion, and I'm sure it was a joyful emotion largely. Well, if it wasn't, you should probably get your head checked. But an amazingly joyful emotion at seeing those young leopards in front of us. I don't know why it is that cat cubs are so profoundly special to us, but yeah, just the sight of them is a profoundly joyful thing. And I agree with you, James. Thank you for your comment. I think it's a good one, that is exactly what makes this so very special. We drive around, we see lots of very special things every day. And then you have an experience like that, where we've been waiting for it, we've been expecting it, we've been hoping that she would bring them across the boundary over the last sort of 3 weeks or so, and now she has. And the expectation has paid off, and I'm sure there are a huge number of smiles dotted around the world as we speak. There are the courting giraffe that Brent was looking at earlier. We might spend a little bit of time with them, given that Brent is onto other things. I hesitate to say better things, but one could hardly blame me for suggesting that those little cubs are better things. Well, this is our redhead. This is the redhead giraffe. I'd be surprised if she was an estrus. I thought that the youngster that we've been seeing for a while was hers, but maybe not. Definitely got amorous intent. And normally, of course, it's a ridiculous thing to watch because she has no interest, but there she is, backing into him. She's backing into him. Lifting her tail. I don't want to start the engine. I know it's not the best view, everyone, but I don't want to start the engine right now. Just be quiet, everyone. Pretend we're not watching. Pretend you're averting your eyes, everyone. Brian, don't look. Just point the camera and turn your face away. I promise we're not looking, Mr. Giraffe. That is, I mean, it would indicate that she is ready to mate, but the fact that she's backing into him like that, he has got no tail. He's a punk giraffe. And he's got a limp as well. This is amazing. Wow. Okay, let's go back a bit. I know you have spent an extended period with these chaps already today, but I still think it's going to be worthwhile. She stopped for a little bite to eat. Fair enough. You can see how it's absolutely nothing like the predators when they mate. They've gone behind some... she's being a bit of a voyeur. She's coming a little bit closer to us. The other thing you can see there, of course, the amazing difference in size. Now, fear not, as soon as those leopards are found, I promise you we will go across to them. So let's just enjoy the giraffe. Be patient, everyone. Brenty will do his best to get in there in the most sensitive manner possible. And it's almost, I mean, in case we don't find them again, because, like I say, Brent is going to struggle to find them without making too much noise and disturbing them, and so he will be very sensitive about it. We have seen them, which is wonderful. And so if we don't see them again, at least we have had view, and at least we know they are on Djuma, which is the best news. Come on, Mr. Giraffe, time waits for no man. You're a limping old fella, you ain't got too much time left. And I know that the Twitter sphere, Jerry's just saying to me, is not talking much about these giraffe, which ordinarily they would be. It is consumed with talk and speculation and joy at the discovery of Karula's little cubs. Little royal children. I think we shall name these ones depending on their sexes. Probably, if we've got a male and a female, perhaps George and Charlotte, perhaps William and Harry if they're two males. Obviously, that will not go down well with the ranging teams around here, so that will not be their names, but I think it would be quite funny. Jerry says, I can't take the royal names I've given the hyenas and give them to the leopards. I beg to differ. I think I can do that entirely. That is the most bizarre thing I've ever seen. The female is mounting the male. This is unbelievable. The female is attempting to seemingly show the male how it's done. I don't know what to say. Brian, have you ever seen that before?
No. Maybe he's new, doesn't know what to do.
He's not, he's ancient. Maybe he's ancient and has forgotten
what to do.
That is unbelievable. I don't know how to explain that. I've got no idea how to possibly try and explain why a female giraffe in estrus would try and mate a male, or mount a male. I can only assume it's because she's in estrus and she's therefore ready, I suppose, to mate. Justin, on Twitter, you say that you are invested now in these giraffe, and it looks like one of them's waiting for the other to make a move. Well, I think the female made a very clear move there, telling him to get on with it. It's absolutely amazing. Wonderful. I'm just getting an update on the radio as we speak. Sorry, that game drive radio is going ridiculous in my ear. Of course, as soon as anybody hears that Karula's around with cubs, there's going to be mass panic. There she goes again. This is just bizarre. No word from Brent yet, everyone. I will keep you posted. We will all keep you posted. Jerry is monitoring his progress. And I think Jamie is in the area helping him. Hello, Linda. Very good question of this non-performing male giraffe. How old do I think he is? Linda, I think that he is probably pushing 20, maybe 17 or 18. They've got a potential lifespan. Oh, here he goes. Potential lifespan of 20 out here. He's quite old, though. Come on, don't just stand there, you great imbecile. It is just bizarre. Come on. He keeps sort of bumping her with his chest and then standing there. One does wonder if there's any kind of communication going on there, or if she perhaps should move on to find a younger, more vigorous man. Come on. Now the vultures are all taking to the skies, everyone. We'll keep an eye on those giraffe. But the vultures are all taking to the sky. It's just as the sort of thermals start to rise. And it's an indicator that whatever they were eating is now well finished. Isn't that wonderful? Hundreds of them taking to the skies now. Flying up on the thermals. Here we go, Brian. He looked like he might make an attempt there. Now, I'm being quite sarcastic and flippant about this whole process, but it's not common to catch it on camera. It clearly happens often enough, otherwise we wouldn't have so many giraffe around, but to catch it on camera is very unusual. Brian, quickly, sorry, onto that roller. Watch the roller, everybody. You're going to see why it's called a roller now. Just keep watching it. It's a little bird. You've got him there. I can't see the monitor. Watch him. He's going to do his display. Here we go. At the apex. Going to try and get a little bit more height. Not quite as high as the Ruppel's vulture. Turn around, you beastly bird. He should come back this direction. Here we go. Don't let me down. The giraffe are not mating. He's just kind of decided to leave. That's ridiculous. Sorry, they normally take off like that, make their noise, and then land again. If he comes back, we'll keep you posted. But they do a very acrobatic flight. That's why they're called rollers. The old boy is looking a little bit disinterested again. She's having to nibble on his neck. There you are. Now she's preparing. And he is going back to standing behind her and hitting her with his chest every so often. No, he's a hopeless case. Jerry reckons she needs to learn to sway her hips a bit more like Thandi and Karula. It is interesting how differently it does happen between the different mammals. So this long, drawn-out, almost painful process of giraffe mating here versus the well, kind of violent and vigorous nature with which the cats tend to mate with each other. Impala and springbok and other antelope tend to, they don't mess around with it. Well, I mean, there's a long lead up into it. This rutting period for impala takes forever, but the actual act of mating takes less than 5 seconds. But this is interminable. And giraffe, it doesn't help, of course, that giraffe have a permanent look of utter confusion on their faces. They always look so bemused. They don't walk around in front. That's very unhelpful. One wonders if there's any form of communication going on there, like Brian and I were chatting about. Is she saying to him, well, come on, get on with it? Or is he saying, you know, you're a young lady, it's lovely to meet you, kind of thing, can I buy you a drink? Or is there just an awkward silence between them where he's just standing there and she's thinking, is he or isn't he? What's going to happen here? And to me, it does look like it's an awkward silence. She's thinking, is he going to get on with it? And he's thinking, oh, I don't know about this. I don't really remember how this sort of thing goes on. And why is she reversing into me? My senile mind can't quite comprehend what's going on here. And Virginia, well, while I think twins are extremely unlikely for this current attempt at making more giraffe, it is possible, Virginia, you wanted to know if giraffe do make twins every so often. Well, it's possible, but it's very unlikely. And it's unlikely that they'd both live to term, I think. Now, giraffe do communicate with a form of infrasound, which means that they may be talking to each other in a frequency just too low for us to hear. So he could be whispering sweet infrasonic nothings into her ear. Clearly they've had an effect. Maybe she's shouting infrasonic nothings towards him, saying, get on with it. Or I shall find a younger, more vigorous fellow than you. Now, we know he's old from his limp, of course, and from that huge amount of calcification on the front of his skull. Come on, old boy. She ain't going to be more inviting than she is right now. He just keeps hitting her with his chest. Yeah, and as Jerry says, this is the most awkward interaction. Yes! And then she moves forward. Now he'll stand around again for the next week, waiting. Stand still, lady, if that's what you want. You don't want to be moving when he eventually manages to do this. Now, I'm being completely flippant at the moment. It is quite possible that this is part of the evolutionary process that has led to, you know, giraffe breeding the way they do. We know that the cats have to mate more than 100 times in order for her to conceive and have cubs. That's certainly what happens with the leopards. There may well be some physiological process here that has to take place that we don't understand yet. So he might not be quite ready. Perhaps his body is rapidly trying to produce sufficient sperm to impregnate her, and the fact that he wouldn't have that in reserve is actually quite a good idea because it's expensive to make, so there would be no point in him having it. And so maybe this interaction is a biological response where he needs this sort of time in order to produce sufficient sperm to then impregnate her, as opposed to him just being a senile old git. So that could well be the case. Brent is still on the hunt, everybody. Siberia is an interesting guess from you. You have used the analogy of a male watching sport, and you say perhaps he just wants to watch the rugby and she just wants to cuddle. Siberia, from her interaction before this, I'd say cuddling is the last thing on her mind. I'd say that he may well be trying to watch the rugby, and she, of course, will be walking in front of the screen and trying to distract him. But now that he has been distracted, she keeps moving off. Very odd. Now, what you'll find, I think, is that with many animals where there is this continual mating, or hidden estrus, so the primates, or most of the primates, and then with what else would be a good example? Well, let's use the primates as an example. Even the cats, they're ready to mate at any time. They're non-seasonal breeders. In the case of the primates, estrus is hidden from the males, and so, well, in a lot of the primates, the chimpanzees and the human beings, for example, estrus is hidden from the males, and if it isn't, like in baboons, where it isn't hidden, the females can come into estrus at any time. The males must be ready to mate at any stage if they want to leave a genetic legacy. Whereas in the antelope, which are very seasonal breeders, the physiological strains of maintaining testicles that are able to mate immediately on demand is removed. They don't have to do that because they can only mate during that very brief mating season. And so that's why we see the impala with their sort of secondary sexual characteristics coming to the fore at this time of year. Those enormous testicles that start to drop down, and the fact that they get those big thick necks, which is the equivalent basically of a human being having a, going through puberty again, like a second puberty almost. And with this giraffe, I just wonder if it isn't the same sort of thing. Although they're not necessarily particularly seasonal breeders, the fact that they're not in estrus all the time might indicate that they have evolved an ability to kind of save energy by going through a long, prolonged, deeply painful, deeply awkward courtship process. He's just had a nibble on a buffalo thorn. It's interesting question from our viewers, and seemingly obvious one that I didn't think of. Could his limp perhaps be affecting his ability to mount her? Could he be too sore, and so every time he kind of puts his weight on the back or hind legs there, it becomes impossible for him? It's possible, yeah. I think that that's not a bad thought, actually, except it seems to be, it wasn't a very bad limp. But maybe that's what it is. Maybe he's just embarrassed. Maybe she's the voyeur and he's not. And he's not prepared to engage in this sort of shenanigans with someone watching. I have to say, I do find it amazing that this act, if you like, look at all those oxpeckers coming in, look at the hundreds of them. The carnal act, if you like, is the most private thing that a human being can ever do, of course. But as soon as the animals do it out here, we become completely fascinated by it. I don't know, I find it slightly jarring. I'd love to know what any of you thought, why it is that it is such a completely private thing for human beings. There we go. No, not quite. oxpeckers took off. All right, we're going to wait for this very painful process to unfold. Brent has not found the cubs, so I don't want to raise your hopes, but he has found their little tracks, so which we will be following a lot over the next few months. So let's go across to him and get an update from the horse's mouth, as it were.
So, we've decided we're not going to put any more pressure on that area. We're just going to leave her be. We'll have another look on the sunset safari. But we decided to show you some cub tracks, because this is the first cub tracks I've seen since I've been here. So, very exciting. Now, the other very interesting thing is the tracks we had of her first thing this morning were coming this way. Now, those tracks are, I've driven over them unfortunately, but there's immediately another set of tracks going back. So there's 3 sets of her tracks here. Oop, and there we go. And there is a baby leopard cub track. And you can see the size of it next to my hand. And compared to Karula's, which is there, I'm just going to do that. So, oh, it's shadows. So you can see there, that's how long Karula's is. And the little leopards are about half the size. I'm still in awe. I'm still speechless that we've been lucky enough to see Karula. And strangely enough, for me, it's very fitting. The first time I ever saw Karula, in my excitement, I was trying to take a picture, but unfortunately my camera battery died, so I think I managed to snap off one before it was all over. And I'll see if we can have a look at it now. And it's just the one, oh, sorry. Where do you want me to? There we go. Walking towards Mom. The only photo. So they do exist, these leopard cubs we talk about. And really exciting that she's decided to move them back onto Djuma. And I'm very, very certain we're going to find her again because there is a kill somewhere in this block. Now, we're not going to go bash and crash too much through here. What I will do is I will drive a long sort of loop around just to make sure she hasn't crossed Philemon's cut line. So, I'm sure there's lots of questions, and I will do my best to try and answer as many of those questions as possible. But I just want to say a big high five to everyone out there, and Jandre, you're allowed as well. But finally, so since that first sighting when they were literally hours old, now to just over 2 months old, absolutely incredible. So, Natasha and Siberia would like to know where we are and is the hyena den close? Well, where we are is a state secret. I shall not be revealing such details today, but I can guarantee you that the hyena den is not close, but only playing. We are between, they went into the area between Shabam Road and Philemon's cut line, but to the southeast of Zoe's. Calm down a little bit now. At the moment, just bathe in the glory of Karula's babies. They were so adorable. Now, they haven't spent too much time with vehicles, and you can see that immediately by their reaction as we came around the corner. Now, this will change, but we are, for the first little bit, going to have to be very sensitive and very careful around them. But there is almost nothing cuter than a leopard cub. I know James will disagree. He thinks lion cubs are cuter. But I think I'm going to go with leopard winning the cat battle of cuteness. So, since I was the first of the guides to see those little guys, Andy and Julia are wondering if I get to name them. So not necessarily what we will do at the next head rangers meeting is all the different properties that see her regularly, different lodges. We will all put in 2 names and we'll discuss 2 names per individual, and then we will discuss and decide what are the best names for them at that meeting, and the decision will be made there. At least VM doesn't get any naming rights. Because VM wants to call the next leopard cub we find, what is it? Demon Slayer and Dark Shadow. That's what he wants to call the next set of cubs, but I think we're probably going to go with the Shangaan name. So they're just over 2 months old, and Natasha's wondering, are they old enough to eat meat? Yes, they are. They can even sometimes eat meat when they're a little bit younger. Now, they're almost fully weaned, not completely, but almost fully weaned at the young age of 3 months. So they will definitely be eating meat already. So her general direction was sort of west. And we're just going to make sure she hasn't crossed over Philemon's cut line, and maybe check around to Zoe's if she hasn't gone to that area. I don't think she'd take the cubs too much further west than this, because that sort of very much falls within Shadow's part of the world. So she'll try to keep them a little bit further away from Shadow's territory, as will Shadow try to keep her cubs away from Karula's. So I mentioned earlier we won't view the cubs without Karula being present till they're a bit older, and Mohammed would like to know why. Well, Mohammed, they're not as relaxed when their mother's not there, and we don't want to give any negative connotations with game viewing vehicles to those cubs. So the cubs are always going to be more relaxed while mom's there, and until they're old enough and relaxed enough that we feel it's fine to view them without mom. If we find them without mom, we'll have a quick view and then we'll move out. It's more for the babies than anything else, just to get them really nice and habituated to the vehicles. And that's always going to be better when mom's around. Sorry, I thought I heard a testicular alarm call. Little bird that quite often... Oh, and quickly across to the amorous giraffes.
They've come closer and closer, everyone, and nothing has transpired. Every time he looks like he might get it on, as it were, she kind of, she's reversing into him, then she walks forward again. And I don't know if there are any young viewers watching, but if there are, they're involved basically in making some more giraffe. Further than that, you're going to have to ask your parents as to what's going on here. But he seems to be fairly ready. Every so often, he gets a fairly mighty protrusion coming out from underneath his undercarriage there, and then she kind of takes fright and walks off. But let's just keep watching and see what happens here. I mean, he's definitely reacting to her, and I think she's definitely an estrus, and he is, I mean, he's having a tremendous physiological response to her. He's not actually just hitting her with his chest there. He's actually having a convulsion every so often. You can see the mighty protrusion that has emerged, and you can see now that he's having a convulsion every so often. It's not that he's butting her. And the awkward silence, as Jerry says, resumes. The other interesting thing is that his penis has got a hook on it, which you can't really see from this angle, but it goes around. don't want to move again. I kind of want to stay right where we are. It sort of hooks away to the right-hand side, and she keeps kind of turning to the side, and I wonder if there's in some way and that's how they mate. Move a little bit here. And now it's back in again. I think this is worth sitting around for, everyone. I'm fascinated to see how it happens, if it happens at all. And there it comes again. Now he's definitely having convulsions. That's what kind of frightens her off every so often. I'm pretty sure that this is, as I guessed. There we go. Whether there was any success there, I don't know. What do you think, Brian? No. This is unbelievable. And back in it goes. So I think I think he's basically preparing. I think his physiology is helping him to prepare. She's ready. Well, is she? And every time he tries to mount her, she runs forward. The other slightly odd thing to me is that she is got very swollen teats. And I don't know if that's a function of estrus or if it is a function of the fact that, I don't know, perhaps she's still lactating from a previous youngster. And I know one of you asked whether she was perhaps not in estrus at the moment, and that's why she keeps moving away. No, I don't think that's the case. I don't think he'd be reacting like this, A, and B, giraffe just move off if they don't want to mate. I've seen a female running, literally, herring off into the sunset in the wake of a male trying to follow her. He seems to me like there we go, he's getting more and more kind of, I mean, that's the third time he's done it now in the last 10 minutes or so. She's definitely, I mean, she's rubbing her backside against his chest. She might just be not quite ready for it yet. Come on. He just has these, every time she kind of backs into him, he has these convulsions, which then makes her move forward, and it's all rather awkward. Ah, there we go. Thank you, Sharon. There's a wonderful comment from you. Sharon, you say you watched giraffes for 3 hours once, and they didn't manage to consummate. Well, we've been with them almost 3 hours now. Not us, but, I mean, through the course of the game drive. We've been with them for almost 3 hours. And there, I don't know, Brian, if you can get the picture of that hook there on his penis. It really has got a very hard hook off to the starboard side there. Quite bizarre. What that dangly bit on the end of it is for, I couldn't begin to tell you. Gosh, I mean, it's got a life of its own. That was close. was a near thing. He made contact there. She is busy ruminating now. If you look at her face, her cheeks are full of leaves and she's chewing. So she's obviously finding this quite hungry business. And one does wonder what the evolutionary function of this deeply prolonged state of courtship is, because, of course, it does come with a cost. The less time they spend feeding, the less time, or the more time they spend doing this sort of thing, the less time they have to look out for predators and see what's going on. And like I say, she would definitely just move away if she wasn't interested. Hello, Brenda in Canada. You were mentioning something called Flehmen, which takes place prior to the stage of what's going on here. And I think you've got it slightly mixed up, but you say that a male impala will test a female's urine, and that tests whether she's a good mate or not. It doesn't do that. What it does, Brenda, is it allows him to tell whether she's an estrus. So he will, like most mammals, sniff her urine, and her urine will contain the hormones that will be a signal to him as to whether she's an estrus or not. And he does this Flehmen display is when they open up their lips, and what that does is open up a tract to the, there we go, it opens up a tract to the vemeronasal or Jacobson's organ, and that will then interpret the signals from the hormones in the urine and tell the male whether she is an estrus or not. Now, that will then trigger, it's not so much whether he wants to tell whether she's in estrus or not, because a male will mate with anything that basically will allow him to, but what he's doing is testing, or he's not so much testing as his physiology will then kick in. So his desire, no cigar there. His desire will be piqued by the suite of hormones interpreted by his Jacobson's organ. And so the process by which this, eventually what we're watching here, happens is started off by the pheromones and hormones in her urine that get into his body through the Flehmen display. Thank you for that, Brenda. And meanwhile, the Earth continues revolving. And then kind of along the same lines, we're just getting a few comments in about, you know, this kind of prolonged process of seeming rejection is a way of her deciding whether she really wants to mate with this chap and find if there isn't perhaps another male around who's a better option. Again, I think once it's got to this stage, she's made that decision already. Once, certainly, absolutely, males will fight over estrus females, and that will help her to decide who it is that she's going to mate with. But once it's got to this stage where she's actually backing into him and allowing him to mount her every so often, she's not selecting anymore. She's made her selection. That's not to say we're a bigger male to come around here and fight him off, that she wouldn't then mate with him. And what you might find is that this is a kind of proto-estrus, where she's not quite ready. Let's head back across to Brent, just get an update from him, and I'll keep you posted here.
So, as another Saturday Cataday appears, what a wonderful, wonderful morning. Oh, here you go, Jean-Andre, something for you to do. Make yourself useful. And that is, I'm pretty sure, one of the vultures that we saw earlier this morning, flying from that area as it gets warm, looking for a nice thermal or a nice carcass somewhere. You can see how he's going to start turning now, looking for that warm air rising. Oh, and unfortunately he's gone over our head, but there we are, white-backed vulture. So I'm pretty certain Karula has got a kill in that area. I just don't want to create too much traffic around there for now. What we're probably going to do is we'll go out after drive and take a walk, a very slow walk. And once we've established where that kill is, we'll be able to get a vehicle in there. For now, it will still be a one-vehicle sighting. What has Jean-Andre spotted? Oh, more vultures coming, apparently. Oh. They're very far away, those vultures. See, there's those vultures. They're still looking for a thermal. Oh. It's amazing how they just disappear. When they catch that warm air, they go shoot up. There we go. Now, incredible birds being recorded at the same height as commercial airliners. Oh, no, that thermal obviously didn't work, and you can see how it's dropping. So being so big and heavy, they don't like to flap too much. It takes a lot of energy. That's why they ride those thermals up. Very similar principle if anyone's ever been in a glider. Now, I'm sure a lot of you are wondering, is it a boy, is it a girl, is it both? And that view we had today wasn't the best, very difficult. Hello, monkeys. Let's see if we can get a bit closer to those vervets. Hello, Rosanna from the land of the long white cloud. Rosanna is wondering, how do animals communicate with their young, based on what I was talking about chuffing with Karula? Well, it depends. There's lots of, I think, visual communication between a lot of the animals is the most important. But with the cats and their young, lions will do quite a lot of low, not meowing, but low calling, sort of, or ow, ow. Now, leopards can do that when they're a bit further away. They're ow, ow. But it seems it's a bit deeper than a lion's. But when they're very close, they chuff. Oh, I just saw that monkey run. Where did he run? What tree did he run up? You got him. There we go. So, and that leopard chuffing is a very cool sound. Oh, baby monkeys, lots of monkeys. Oh, look at them go. Full of the joy of the morning. Our set of eyes and ears, our alarm system in the bush, the vervet monkeys. You see those two playing, jumping on each other there? There we go. Let me sit on you. No, I'm out of here. What is that one doing? It looks like he's hugging the branch. So it is a bit early still, so quite a few of the monkeys, they're still waking up, and they like to bask. As we get closer and closer to the really cold months, in the early morning, you will often find monkeys sitting on the edge of a tree in the sun trying to warm up. Sorry, guys, just need to be on the radio. Standing by. Western side. Let's just try it. Oh, he's finished now. But they are absolutely fascinating. Primates display so many interesting behavioral traits. I'm just trying to see if we can get a better view of them. So it's just a quick update from James. Those giraffe have lost interest in each other and have moved away from each other. Oh, big jump. Now, these guys are absolutely, it's amazing how agile they are. And they trust their agility from a very young age. Now, if we come up, under the marula to the right at the back, there's some more in there. There we go. Definitely one of my favorite animals to spend time with. You got him? Right in the middle of your shot. You do have him. There you go. So they do eat leaves. They also are very much omnivores. They will take flesh. They will eat birds, baby birds, eggs, but mostly leaves and fruit and insects. And incredibly adaptable. And one of the few animals that adapts very well to human habitation and become expert scavengers. There you go. Oh, they've all decided to move off behind the branches, and that's so we'll do the same. And it's not often that I'm rendered speechless, but I'm still battling to speak after seeing those little leopards. And I'm really looking forward to spending more time with them. Well, these are not amorous giraffe, but there seem some more giraffes. Anna Marie is saying now that Karula's brought them out, does this mean they can climb trees? Yes, at about 2 months, they are quite adept at being able to scuttle up a tree if there's any form of danger around. And that's one of the reasons we wait until the leopard cubs are 2 months old before we start spending long periods of time with them. Oh, look at that very small baby giraffe. It's just babies everywhere today. Oh, that's tiny. Look at that. Tiny, tiny little baby. Probably a couple of weeks old at the most. Maybe, let's see, sometimes there might still be a bit of the umbilical cord attached. Yes, it is. So it's probably a week or under a week old. Baby giraffe are born at about 2 meters tall, just under 2 meters tall, so about my height. Even though that one is tiny, it's probably very close to my height. And they're born weighing about 100 kilograms, which is over 200 pounds. A very big baby. And they come into life with a bit of a shock because they fall from mom, which is about 2 meters, and it sort of kick-starts them. It's a very... I've seen giraffe giving birth before, and it looks very uncomfortable for the baby. It sort of hits the ground with this heavy thud. And mom's eating a buffalo thorn. So, as I was saying, I said 2 meters. I was a bit incorrect. The 2 meters is what she falls from. They're born at about 1.8 meters, so just a little bit shorter than me. I'm trying to wait for them to get a little bit more relaxed before I move a bit closer. So Mom is seeming nice and relaxed, but baby probably hasn't seen too many game drive vehicles yet. So again, with anything, let the car run for a few seconds, let them get used to the noise. Don't start and immediately move. Let me just inch closer. They do have a very funny and bemused look upon their face at this age. You can see those very fluffy little ossicones. I can't see whether it's a male or female baby just yet, but you can see very, very fluffy and very sweet. So even though at the moment he's probably heavily reliant on mother's milk, he would have already started feeding on leaves and trees, and they can be weaned as young as a month old from mom. Now, giraffe have quite an interesting little way of breeding or of raising their young. You do get calving herds or sort of nursery herds where multiple babies will be left with a single mother while the others move off to feed and drink and whatnot, and all those babies will be able to access that single animal that is theirs milk, even if it isn't their direct mother. And we don't really see that type of behavior here. So it's not the greatest giraffe country in the world, not enough acacia shells. But in areas where you do get big groups of giraffe, I think the biggest I've seen is over 40. Oh, here comes the little one again. It's getting a little more curious. Look at that, in tandem. Mom's spotted something, but don't worry, Mom, I also spotted it. It's just a wildebeest. Now, giraffe are very, very good mothers, and they will actually stand over a baby and kick out at a predator like a lion or hyenas that try and grab the baby. And at this age, those are the two main predators for a baby giraffe. Lions really like baby giraffe, and if there's a group of hyenas, they'll see this as a very possible target. Now, the only leopard I've ever heard catching and killing a baby giraffe in this part of the world, it does happen elsewhere, was the Anderson male who actually caught a baby giraffe and hoisted him into a tree to the south. Now, that is absolutely incredible. That is not something you hear of every day. Now, out of all the little fluffy toys you get of the wild animals here, I think the baby giraffe looks most like the real deal. So those little fluffy giraffe look very similar to this little fluffy creature. Yes, I'm talking about you. A perfect miniature version of the adult. Still not 100% relaxed, and that's why we're keeping our distance a little bit and staying quite nice and still. So let's leave Mom and Baba and move along. So this is just, as it's got warmer, I did say we're going to look for some butterflies. And there's some African monarchs flopping around here, and they are just incredibly beautiful. And you got them there, John, right there we go. Look at that. Such stunning colors, right? Representing danger to a bird who wants to eat. And we can see those little spots on the inside of the wing, and that's what tells us it's a monarch, not a diadem, which mimics the monarch, but the coloration there is so stunning. And on the diadems, it's a little bit less obvious. It's just not, they're just not quite as bright. And with all that excitement with the leopard cub this morning, I forgot to try find that butterfly we saw on yesterday's sunset safari. I will double check now. But oh, look at the mom and baby giraffe are heading out into the open. So we'll stay with them a bit longer. I'll let you look at them while I try to find that butterfly from yesterday's sunset safari. So cute when they gallop. So, hi, Sabi from Hubman's Kraal, just outside Pretoria. Now, Sabi is saying last year he heard that a white giraffe was born in Tanzania due to leucism, and was wondering if I can shed some light on that, about that condition. Well, Sabi, leucism is the lack of the color pigmentation melanin. So when you have an over sort of, well, what's the right word I'm looking for? A dominant sort of over use of leucism, not leucism, the melanin color, you get menelistic, which is black. So leucism is the opposite of that, so it's the lack of that black color hormone. So that is what happens there. It's more common in birds, but we do see certain leucistic animals occasionally. Have we seen one here? I can't remember. The most common leucistic animal I've seen in this part of the world is actually a bronze-winged courser. I've seen quite a few different leucistic bronze-winged coursers, which is a little bird. Okay, we have found the Latin name for that butterfly. Now I'm just going to try to find the common name. One must remember it might not have a common name. $173. I knew it. I just couldn't remember its name. And I thought it might be a Shiraxis, but I was wrong. It is called a painted lady. What a beautiful name for a butterfly. So that is the butterfly species I couldn't identify. It was a bit rusty, but there we go. And its Latin name is even a lady's name, Vanessa. Vanessa Cardui, probably something to do with whoever discovered it. But there we go, that's it, a painted lady. How wonderful. Mom having a little rest in the shade. So, Jen is wondering, is that mother giraffe's hip looks quite prominent to her? Could that be from that very dry section we had? I don't think so, Jen. I think she looks in pretty good nick to me. And I think it's just the angle she's standing at the moment. Oh, look there, she's grooming and licking the baby very briefly. Oh, hello, little one. Well, it's definitely been a morning of babies. baby giraffe, baby leopards, baby monkey, and the attempt at making babies by a giraffe as well. Very unsuccessful so far. So if those two you've been watching with James get it right, this is what comes afterwards. Ooh, having a drink. No. Mom is not ready. So Kat, who's in Tampa in sunny Florida, says Karula's cubs on the Sunrise Drive and Cheetah Plains for the first time on the Sunset Drive. Wow, Wild Earth, you really spoil us. Well, we do try, Kat, to give you the most all-encompassing safari experience we can, and we really do appreciate having all you guys there and your comments and feedback. I'm still literally buzzing on a high from seeing Karula's cubs for the second time. So last time I saw them, they were like little sausages, so they've definitely grown, but it has been splendid, and hopefully we'll be able to find Karula's and her cubs again on the sunset. And as well as the most exciting news, apart from Karula, of course, I think that's more exciting, but we will be traversing Cheetah Plains from tonight. So very exciting. So we're going to say goodbye. I'm still stumbling over words because of those little bundles of cuteness. Let's go see James so he can also say adieu.
Hello. We just came and did a little flyby where Brent left Karula and Cups. Well, they were right in the block, so we didn't go into the block. We just kind of drove around it to see if she wasn't perhaps lurking in the top of the tree with a hapless duiker and two of her babies, but we didn't find anything. So we'll discuss it when we get back to camp as to how we're going to proceed. One of us, Jamie or I, will be on Cheetah Plains today, and one of us will no doubt be here trying to see if we can find Karula and her cubs. We are going to decide this on a flip of a coin. Both very exciting. We're extremely excited to be going to Cheetah Plains this afternoon, and very excited, of course, as well, to be hopefully seeing those little balls of fluff. I think is what did he call them? Bundles of joy. I'm not sure I would have referred to them as that, but that's Brent's term for the little leopards. I hope they are joyful bundles. Anyway. And we do hope, of course, during the course of the day, that dear old Mr. Giraffe manages to consummate his desires, and, well, seemingly hers too. We hope that she too succeeds with what has been an extended period of courtship and effort on both of their parts. Wonderful morning that it has been. We've had some incredible vulture stuff as well. The recalcitrant roller that flew off and wouldn't do its display like it should have. It's broken. I think it's going to be a nice warm afternoon. So that's good news. We will see you, of course, later this afternoon. Thank you to all of you for your questions and comments during the course of the morning. It is always wonderful chatting to you. Aqua, some good ones from you. I think Grant, yours are, and Dovian or someone like that asked about some wonderful stuff about evolution. Big thanks to the final control to Brian on camera, and we'll see you this afternoon. Bye-bye.